Yes, yes, yes. I did open with the closing segment, and that's why we're going to talk about mistakes today. Oh my goodness. I'm like watching it, said, thanks for watching. I said, I hit the wrong button. Welcome
Too
to Life
funny.
Between All or Nothing. I'm Scott J,
And I'm Mary Kay.
and we're here to talk about the life between all or nothing. And that simply means, stop waiting for everything to come to you, stop waiting for everything to happen, and start living your life today. And if it's not the life you want to live, then change it. If it's
Then
not what
change it.
makes you, if you're not happy, if you're not living your best self and your best life, you got nobody to blame but you. So that's what we want to talk about. I mean, really, I'm going to put it very bluntly. Everybody wants to blame people, don't they? How many times, Mary Kay, did you and I make excuses in our lives where it's like
Oh,
I would
yeah.
change except for this or that, or
Oh,
it's
yeah.
because I don't have money or I don't have the right job or this person's holding me back or I've got responsibilities, and so we didn't make changes, right?
Yeah. I call that our butts. And I remember I did a post a little while ago that said, hey, you, nice butt, B-U-T, right? Let's take a
Yes.
look at our butts because that is the thing. Everything after that sentence is the thing that's holding you back. And it doesn't have to. It does not have to hold you back.
Well, you know what? My good friend Denny, who we lost a few weeks ago, and God rest his soul, he used to say everything you say after the word "but" is bullshit. you
Yeah,
know,
that's
if you
right.
say the word "but," then everything after that is bullshit. And he was very straightforward on that. Sandy's
Yeah.
with us. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Sandy Mom.
And anybody else with us, just give us a shout out. You're watching us either on Facebook or YouTube, or now LinkedIn is now has now been approved, so we will be broadcasting live on LinkedIn as well. So
Awesome.
we're gonna figure out a way to link the accounts and do all of that. So my LinkedIn is not big, but we're just kind of pushing it through to see how it works. And then once it's working, we're going to put it through on yours and Karen's and everybody else's, and it's going to be awesome. But
That's exciting.
I
Thank you.
know,
You're the tech brains behind all of this stuff. So I appreciate you.
yes, I I hit buttons and I win, and I hope for the best. And good things happen sometimes. There's other times when I'll hit a button and I'll sign myself off the show accidentally, and I've done that. I've done that several times. I've done that several times. Karen's with us. Hi there. Awesome to see you both.
Hi, Karen.
Karen, I haven't seen you in minutes. That's awesome.
Literally minutes.
Oh my goodness. So what we're here to talk about today, folks, and we want your input on this, and anybody out there, any thoughts you have, and there's no wrong or right answers because the truth is mistakes are part of a process. So what we want to
Mhm.
talk about is having the courage or just allowing yourself to make mistakes. And too many people are so obsessed with making mistakes that they don't do anything. They don't try new things,
Yeah.
you know. Think about things that you picked up later in your life. I mean, there's some things. Do you know how to ride a bicycle, Mary?
I do now.
You do. When you first learned to ride a bicycle, did you do it perfectly?
Oh, no, no. I have a scar on my knee that reminds me that I didn't.
Oh, would you hit? Or did you just wipe out?
I wiped out, yeah, and I gashed my knee horizontally. Yep, yep. Lots of
Uh,
blood.
I know my father. I remember my father pushing me and running alongside the bike, and then just I look one day and he's not there, and of course then you panic and you hit the mailbox.
Yeah.
um,
Ouch.
I taught my son on a hill, and basically, I
Oh
knew
my
he was going to
God.
go. I knew he was going to go fast, but I had no idea he was going to have no sense to not turn. He hit a parked car the first time he went solo on a bike, but we all
Mm,
now it's part of the learning process. You don't do anything perfectly, but if you
it
want
is. And
to, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the courage to try something, even though, of course, yeah, you might fail or make a mistake, whatever you want to call it. That's how we learn. We get feedback when we find the mistake, right? So a mistake to me is I found a way to not do something.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right? So I'm going to adjust. The next time I try this thing, I'm going to adjust because the mistake was my feedback. And I mean, think about, you talked about riding a bike. What about when we learned to walk when we were kids?
Yeah.
Come
You
on.
look like a drunken sailor walking through
Yeah.
the bar. I mean, it's just like, you get all wobbly and the knees, you stick a leg out and the knee locks up and you kind of fall forward and you stick the other. Yeah. And it's awkward but you know what? There's also, I don't know if you've ever seen like a horse being born or a baby cow or something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The four-legged creatures, not so much puppies and cats, but more of the bigger ones. There is something so awkward, but yet so graceful in them taking those first steps. Mm-hmm. And they're wobbly in there, but there's something beautiful in that. And we look at that and we're like, oh my God, that horse is doing it wrong. Go shoot him. We don't do it.
That's right.
I'm going to shoot him, but we don't get upset. We look at it as, wow, this is beautiful watching this. But then when we do things, we look at it like it's a horrible, horrible thing. We don't see it the same way. And there's, hey, look who is with us here. It is our friend Jacques.
Oh, hi, Jacques.
Jacques, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Jacques, I know you're going to dig this, and you're all about this stuff. It's about having the courage to make mistakes and to just plow through things and not be afraid of mistakes. But anyway, we view mistakes by certain things as beautiful. Baby learning to walk, beautiful. A horse learning to walk, beautiful. Us learning how to work a computer or learn a new computer program or learn a new language, because we all like, oh, I really should learn a new language, but I don't want to look stupid. And then we say things wrong. We don't look at it like, oh, how beautiful the effort that's going. We look at it like, what a moron, what an idiot. And we see ourselves.
Our self-talk is the worst. I mean, can you remember the first time that you picked up a paintbrush?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And look at you now. Look at you now.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I just, I still have my first painting here and I consider it, and some people look at it and they like it. And I look at it and I'm like, God, I made so many mistakes when I was doing that. But until I brushed a canvas, I didn't know what I needed to fix. I didn't know where I needed to put the work in. And really it was just the reason that first painting came out the way it did is because I was too fearful of really letting go. And I realized the mistake I made wasn't what I did. It's what I didn't do. I didn't just let go. And now I'm like, I paint stuff and I'm throwing paint at the thing and I'm like swiping and slashing at it and and it's working. It works for me. And I have a blast. But Mary, listen to this. This is the Oxford Dictionary. The definition of the word mistake: an action or judgment. I like that. If you put the word judgment right in there, like whenever there's judgment, it's never a good thing. An action or judgment that is misguided or wrong. That is the definition of mistake, is wrong. If you don't know how to ride a bike and you get on the bike, is it really that you're doing it wrong, or is it you're doing it just the absolute best that you can at that moment? And if that's the case, is it really a mistake? Our own dictionary tells us that we're stupid, and that we're wrong, that there's a right and wrong to everything we do. And I'm saying, no, mistakes aren't about right and wrong. Mistakes are about learning.
Yeah, it's about learning, and it's about a miss. I mean, if we look at the word, it's got the word take right in there. Something happens, okay, it's a mistake. Take the lesson out of it, right? What's the lesson here? Yes. Oh, I got to adjust a little bit. Even big things like you want to change careers. Of course, you don't know if this is going to be a mistake. It's the same action. If it works out, you call it a success. If it doesn't work out, you call it a mistake, but it's the same thing, right? It's the same action. And so many people are afraid to try something different because it might be a mistake. And I know we all have different levels of risk tolerance, right? And Scott, you and I started this show because of the small changes, the stuff that's between the all or nothing. Don't go into the office tomorrow and give your boss the finger, right? Don't quit just like that because you want to change careers. How about a little planning? How about a little investigation? How about talking to people who've done it before and then plan your actions? And sure, something might still turn out to be a mistake. Readjust. Just Scott, you sail, right?
Yeah.
When you're sailing, are you constantly readjusting in response to the wind and what's going on around you?
Absolutely. And the only way you find the wind is by testing different spots.
Right.
You don't just automatically say, this is exactly where I needed to sail. You slowly let the sail out until it finds its spot. You don't just know it. So could I say that first place where I put that sail was a mistake? No. It was part of the process to getting where I needed to be.
That's right.
And you're absolutely right. You just
trust the process.
That would mean everything we do instinctually isn't right. And it's not true. Our instincts guide us to where we need to be. And our instincts aren't about right or wrong. It's about what we can do at the moment. So I really want to, Jock made some comments here.
Sure.
Turn my mistakes into opportunities.
Ooh.
I love that. And
fist bump there.
Mistakes aren't necessarily failures. They are learning experiences. You know,
exactly.
I see failures as something completely different than mistakes. I see failures as times when I walk away from things without putting my best to them. That's a failure. When I give up on myself, that's a failure. If I try something and it doesn't work, that is never a failure. It could be a mistake. It could be a big faux pas. It could be oops. It could be a blooper on America's Funniest Home Videos. It could be anything. But it's not a mistake as long as I'm trying to do things. It's not a failure. I mean, it's not. And mistakes are simple. Let me see. Sandy says, an inspiration medallion I just painted says, a mistake just shows us you are trying. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Ronald, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Ron.
My favorite show hosts, Scott and Mary Kay. Yahoo!
Yahoo!
You know what? Ronald, that is not a mistake. That is the truth. Okay, I like
that. And Ron is making so many changes in his life, and one of the most recent changes that he made, I mean, could have been a mistake, but it wasn't. He took the chance. He found the courage. Yeah. And Ron, I'm just calling you out there because I wanted to acknowledge you for having that courage.
Hey, way to go, brother. Yeah. Way to go. Listen, everything we try at first has the possibility of not working. Everything. But if we get so hung up on not, here's what I want everybody to picture this. I want you to picture somebody being born. Okay, somewhere in a hospital, somewhere in Canada or United States or somewhere, a kid is born with complete knowledge of everything in the world.
Ooh.
He can walk, he can talk, he can dance, he can sing, he can split the atom, or he can bake you a cake. He knows how to do everything as an infant. Okay? A mistake-free human being. What would we do with that? We would be terrified. We would be terrified. We couldn't even conceptualize it. It would be a god or a deity of some sort. It would be,
or it would be an artificial intelligence robot.
Yes, a robot baby. Robot baby. It's just it's not even conceivable that I don't want something like that into this world, because that's a scary concept of something being born omnipotent and never making mistakes. The mistakes are the cool things. Those are the things that make us who we are. Those are our quirks and our little things, you know?
And I'm laughing, Scott. I'm laughing because speaking of little things, so the last show before I came on the air with you and Geo last week, I was mucking around on TikTok and watching some makeup videos about eyebrows and something. And of course, I decide to try it right before we're going to go live. So I don't know if you guys want to check out the last video from last week and check out my eyebrows.
Don't
Oh
do
my
it now.
God.
Wait till the end of the show,
Yeah,
but
wait
then
till
go
then.
do it. Yeah.
They're like these giant caterpillars, and I didn't have time to fix them. And I came on and I was laughing and I was telling you and Gio that, oops, I made a mistake.
She was
But
she was going with the Martin Scorsese eyebrows for the day. It was, but
oh yeah, yeah. I'm just glad I didn't try the unibrow one. There's some unibrow trend that's out there that would definitely be a mistake that I do not think is a good idea.
I go to get my hair cut, and I'm very particular. I like my hair a certain way, and I go to one place that's fantastic, and well, one day we'll debate the idea that if they cut 1 inch off of my hair or 1 inch off of your hair, they charge you double what they charge me because you're a woman.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that someday, but and sometimes I'll go try a different place, and I'll say, what the hell? It's convenient. Let me go in here. And I went to this barber shop and this was a few cuts ago. This was sometime last year. Nobody spoke English, and I don't have like a Hispanic vocabulary at all. So we were communicating through grunts, groans, and clicks, like most guys do anyway. And by the time it was done, they cut my hair way too short. They cut my mustache into this pencil thin thing over the top of my lip that is not me. It was just completely wrong. And I walked away and I thought, oh man, it's like, but you know what? I learned something. I learned that, that I got a good place and that it is worth driving across town. It is worth waiting for my appointment. It's worth doing that so that I can get what I want, and sometimes you got to stray a little bit to try something different, to find out and really appreciate what we have too. So some mistakes are just really kind of created so that we can appreciate more of what we already have in our hand, right?
I totally agree with that. And on the flip side of that, some mistakes or deviations from the norm, we're going to try them and figure out that, oh, look what I found.
Yeah.
Look at this great thing that I didn't know about or that I was afraid of because I was too afraid to try it before. And, things for me, I mean, even finding photography, I was afraid to use a DSLR camera. I was afraid. I thought I was going to make mistakes, and I did.
Just so people know, the DSLR is the electronic camera versus the film camera. That's the difference. Some people don't know what DSLR is, but I think most people do now. But
yeah.
All right. So you were afraid to try it.
I was afraid to try, and then it turned into one of the biggest passions of my life, including the learning part, including the making mistakes, including not setting the right exposure and not getting the details or getting too many details. I mean, I am so grateful that I did that. And maybe to some people that might be, a benign thing, but I had other bigger mistakes, bigger life-changing mistakes. I think, even past relationships, for example, being afraid to communicate properly because I thought I would make a mistake. And of course, as it turned out, that lack of communication or that fear of communicating my real self to the other person was the ultimate mistake, because of course they're not going to be, once they find out who I really am, it wasn't aligned to them. And yeah, I think, in our 50s, we're in midlife, past midlife, maybe a little bit. We found a lot of ways that didn't work. But look at the information in those ways that didn't work, because now they fuel us to do the things that might work or attempt the things that might work. That courage.
Absolutely. Let me catch up on some comments. Ron, you were speaking about changes he made earlier. He said it was a leap of faith.
Leap of faith. Yeah.
Sandy Mom kicked in and said if the baby was born like that, he wouldn't be human anyway.
Absolutely.
Jacques, of course, is right there with us. Life is about learning, trial and error. Yeah, that's what life is. It's about dipping your foot in the pool, and you don't know until you dip your foot in whether it's hot or cold or perfect or whatever. You just don't know, so you do it. Mary Kay is an excellent photographer. I'll agree with that.
Thank you.
I will agree with that. We've seen, Karen and I sometimes at work will just pull up some of your stuff that you sent and look at it. It's like, wow, it just makes us feel good. A picture of a squirrel at your door and things like that. It's kind of interesting.
The one that knocks at my window, waiting for peanuts.
Yes. Yeah. Now, you made the point about the relationships, and this is really funny because, and Teresa and I, those of you who don't know, Teresa's my ex, and we do a show called The Exes that is usually every other Wednesday night. We're going to be off schedule next week, but we're figuring that out. But we do the show because we're still friends. But one of the things that happened in our relationship is that we were both trying to pretend everything was okay because we didn't want things. I didn't want to come home and tell her things were stressful. I didn't want to come home and tell her I made a mistake. I always wanted to perfectly try to pretend everything was perfect. And in doing that, I robbed us of the opportunities of growing together. And she also, she shared with me that she was afraid to speak up when she wanted to say something and thought it's better just to keep it to myself. And by not expressing ourselves, whether it comes out good or bad, beautiful or ugly, mean or nice, just to express it gives couples an opportunity to grow. When one or both of the people in a relationship are trying to be perfect and not make mistakes or to be imperfect, it robs them of the ability to grow together. And that's what happened with Teresa and I. We didn't get a chance to grow. And we had to separate to figure that out. And I had to go my way and she went her way. And, I'll hazard to say, I'm glad that we're both good in that we're both kind of living the lives we want to live, but I feel bad that we went through what we did. Because a lot of it had to do with me just not wanting to be imperfect and not wanting to have flaws. And you know what? The more perfect you are, the more flawed you actually are acting.
Absolutely.
Teresa's with us. I didn't even know that. Okay.
Hey, Therese.
Smooth things over. Don't rock the boat. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like if you're always on a perfectly smooth lake and there's no waves and nothing's rocking the boat, when the storm comes, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do. And you just kind of both sit on the boat when shit's hitting you in the face and water's coming and you're just sitting there saying, I'm just going to pretend everything's okay. And it's not. And it's not. And, Therese, because of, well, all I got to do is say I'm ever grateful for Therese for helping me learn some of these things. And sorry, my ringer was on.
Part of your growth, right? Part of your growth was that and making those mistakes in that relationship. And we're not perfect. So it's progress over perfection. And that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. You going back to that perfect baby, that perfect human that was born, he or she, what a boring life they would have because they're not learning. We have the ability to learn. And I get pleasure out of that. I get pleasure out of learning. I get pleasure out of laying new tracks in my brain. And, going easy on ourselves when we do make mistakes, because if you're not just sitting there, you haven't put yourself in a box or a cave or something, and you're able to go out into the world and risk making mistakes and experience. We are going to make mistakes, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Having compassion for ourselves, I think, is huge. And if you sign up and commit to compassion for yourself, then it makes you more likely to go out there and try that buffet that we have until we take our last breath, right?
Absolutely. It's amazing. A lot of people who preach this stuff don't practice it. And that's one of the things that we find with Let me see. Teresa says, "Oh, anytime, anytime I need to learn another lesson, she's there for me." All right. Thanks, Teresa. Love you. We'll have to have her on the show sometime.
Yeah, we should.
It'll be fun. Hopefully, I know she's busy next week. We got things going on, but sometime soon we'll have Teresa on the show. But there's a lot of people out there telling people about, hey, you got to try things, you got to make mistakes, and you got to do this and stuff. But they don't take their own advice. And these are the people that get into these. I'm always kind of really critical about the kind of the life coaching and stuff from people who don't have their shit together. Because that's a lot of times you're hearing it from these motivational people. It's like, go out there and do that. They're not doing that. You have to experience it to really share it with other people. You have to be able to. How does somebody who's afraid of heights and will not fly become an airline instructor? You can't. No, you can't have it. But all the time,
it won't be me. For the record, yes, I'm not going to be. It's not going to be me.
But they don't. But it's like hey, I'm afraid of heights, but I want to teach you how to walk tightrope. And it's like, but you don't walk tightrope. But it's okay. I can still. It takes me all the way back to gym class. When we were young in gym class, back then, gym class was different than it is now. Gym class now is all about being politically correct and not hurting anybody's feelings. And making sure, or not throwing dodgeballs at people because people get picked on. Yeah, right. It's a passage. It's a rite of passage for kids.
Dodgeball, yeah.
Yeah. They don't do dodgeball anymore. You're not allowed to have dodgeball anymore.
What?
Because it's bullying. It's bullying.
Oh, no, I know what bullying is, and it's not dodgeball.
I mean, just because you're picking off the slowest, nerdiest kid does not mean you're bullying. It just means that you know what the animal kingdom is. You always go for the slowest gazelle with a limp first. Okay,
natural selection.
But back in gym, we used to climb a rope. They don't do that anymore either because now it's dangerous. So you're not allowed to climb ropes anymore. And we used to climb a rope up like 15, 20 feet, whatever, touch the rail and then come down. And we always had this. It was always like this overweight old gym coach who's like saying, do it. And it's like, you want to get up here and do it? If you could do it, they don't know how to do it. So how am I learning from people who aren't willing to do things themselves? That's what I'm saying. If you're going to follow somebody, make sure that they're following what they're trying to teach you too. And a lot of times they don't, because they don't want to make mistakes. They want to pretend that they're perfect. And whenever somebody pretends they're perfect, they are riddled with fault. So,
the holes in the boat. They got holes in their boat.
Oh, yeah. Ron says, be able to forgive yourself after a mistake. It's almost a shame we need to forgive ourselves. I understand what you're saying, Ron. I agree with you. But why do we beat ourselves up in the first place? Why is your first reaction when I'm on the golf course and I swing and it goes off into the woods? Because it happens. It doesn't just happen to me. It happens to Tiger Woods. Why is he a miracle worker with a club? Because every once in a while he hits a bad shot and he's behind a tree and he's got to pull off a miracle. So it doesn't mean he's perfect. It means that he takes his imperfections and finds a way to work with them. But why do I have to yell at myself and call myself stupid and an idiot and a moron and quit the game and break my club and throw the rest of the clubs in the lake with the gators and do all of that? Why do all of that? Because I made a bad shot instead of just saying, okay, you made a bad shot. Now what you going to do? I want to be careful about that word forgive, because you should not need to forgive yourself because you made a mistake. You should be able to just dust yourself off and say, all right, let's do that again. Am I right? Am I on the right path, Mary Kay, with this?
Well, how about compassion? Because I think we do need to have compassion for ourselves when we make a decision, that's not the right decision. And the compassion gives us the freedom to then go and try again. It's like, let's try that again. And it's funny you brought up Tiger Woods, because, he made other mistakes in his personal life very publicly.
Yeah.
And yet he's still one of the greatest golfers in the world, right? Our mistakes don't they don't affect every area of our life most of the time, and it doesn't make us it makes us more human. Like it's part of the human condition to make mistakes, because we're built to adapt, and we're built to learn, and we can learn from others' mistakes as well. Right? I
Sure.
mean, in the old caveman days, if whatever, the caveman went out and got eaten by the lion, oops, that was a mistake. And now I know, as the new tribe leader, not to go down that path, because I can't see what's coming around me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We should. If you're paying attention to the people in your lives, they're learning lessons for you.
Yeah.
But you still have to put your foot in the water every once in a while anyway.
I
Nicole, good
agree.
evening. Thanks for joining us, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Nicole is sharing that think about when we were babies, toddlers, etc. Little ones are in their head. It's called practice, practice, practice makes progress.
It sure does. It sure does.
Everybody ask yourself the question: where does your greatest regret come from? Does it come from the thing you tried, it didn't work, or does it come from the thing you never tried? Where are your greatest regrets from? My greatest regrets were not speaking up at certain times in my life. My greatest regrets were not taking this position or taking this job or fully, embracing what I had in front of me. It was the mistake of inaction. And the mistake of inaction is the one mistake that I will regret. Any mistakes I made through action, like trying something, those aren't the things I carry with me. Like, oh, I wish I didn't. I'm always glad that I tried something, but it's the inaction that gets us,
And I agree with you there. I think the biggest regrets come out of inaction, because once you're on your deathbed and maybe reviewing some of those regrets, there's nothing you can do to change not doing something, not trying. And the what if I tried that thing?
Why do people make bucket lists? Let's talk about that. Is it because you're afraid to just do it now and you're kind of putting it on a list where one day, at the very end of my life, it's okay if I do it and look stupid or make a mistake or if it doesn't work? I mean, with the exception of skydiving, you don't have to do anything perfectly. In skydiving, you don't even have to do that perfectly. You just want to make sure maybe the last 30 seconds kind of turn out okay. I mean, that's only if you want to skydive more than once. Anybody can skydive once.
Right. And so I think, bucket list, start your bucket list now. Whatever you've got on your bucket list, start it now. Do the first thing on there now, today.
You're already making a list of the regrets you're going to have down the road if you don't do things. Why are we doing that? Why not scratch out the word bucket list and just say to-do list and go do those things?
I agree.
Don't do this thing where, one day I want to do that. What are you doing tomorrow? Let's go do it.
One day, tomorrow's a day. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let me see. I think that it's lies or comments that were spoke over us throughout our lives that we started to believe them. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So, and I think, we're definitely programmed. There's so many times I hear people when I'm coaching somebody and they say, well, I'm like that because of my upbringing. I'm like, that's awesome. That shows me that you know that you can be programmed. So how about we program something else? If you can accept and install that program, let's pick another program. And we can tell ourselves, as Nicole was saying, maybe they're not lies, but we could tell ourselves things that will move us in a different direction and believe different beliefs than the ones that we came with. Like anything can change. Whatever happened, whatever you believe right now and from your past, we can make new beliefs and find new evidence to support those beliefs for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I've talked about it often about the 4 different stages kind of we go through. As when we're a child, our parents dictate what our lives are and who we are. And then when you turn, you become a teenager, you start to figure out, listen, I'm going to be my own person, but we're still so influenced by our surroundings that we actually become what we hang out with. And that stays with us for a while. And then we get into our late 20s, maybe early 30s, or, somewhere in the mid 20s, maybe, where we start to think, oh, I've got to start to really make my mark in the world and be a success. Then we start looking at media and everything else that tells us what we should be. You go do that for a while. Then you get to the late 40s, 50s, and 60s, where one day you wake up and say, I never had a chance just to be me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, each one of those stages requires action, except for the first one where all the decisions are made for you. But all those stages require action, trying things and testing the waters and making mistakes so that we can figure out who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your idea was I want to be a doctor. I want to be a brain surgeon, and this is what I'm going to be. And I want to help people. I want to do all that. Then the first time you see blood, you throw up and pass out. Okay, maybe that's not your path, but you wouldn't have found out unless you tried. Now
That's
we're
right.
going to move on, and now I'm going to be a car mechanic because I don't mind dripping oil, but blood will make me gag. So we're going to do something different. But we got to find out. We got to try. How do you find out who you are until you try things? How do you know what foods you like until you taste them? I mean, how do I know that I love pizza, but the beets are the worst thing on the planet? It's because that's, by the way, beets, that's not an opinion. That's a fact, by the way. The beets, listen. I know they're fighting about gay marriage and abortion, all that stuff. Listen, my fight, get rid of beets. That's what I want. I want to go into politics, get rid of beets. You like beets?
Is it all root vegetables that you have something against?
Just beets. Any food that bleeds on other food should be gone.
Oh, I love beets.
Unless it's a nice juicy steak, then it's okay. Okay, we are adverse. This is from Sandy. We are adverse to taking a risk and maybe making a mistake. Why? Who's keeping score?
Oh, that's a great name for a book. Who's keeping score?
Wonderful.
Woo.
I'm writing that down.
That's brilliant.
That book I'm going to write.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I think you know what? We're the ones keeping score. We keep score. We keep score ourselves, and we don't have to. No one else cares most of the time if we're going to make a mistake.
How do we think we're so self-important that the mistakes we make, that everybody in the world is watching us?
Yes.
Last time I checked my driver's license, my name was not Brad Pitt. Nobody gives a shit what I do every day. But for some reason, when I make a mistake, I feel like the whole world is watching me. Nobody's keeping score.
It's judgment on yourself.
The stuff that we carry with us, and we all do it, some to a more heavier extent, and I used to do it a lot, but not so much anymore. I'm trying to get better at it. Of all the burdens I carry, of all the mistakes I made, and the times I felt bad, and all those little self-talk moments of I'm lousy and I'm stupid, and those will all come back to play when I do make another mistake, and then I'll well, you're stupid, just like the other time and the time and the other time and the other time. You're right. We're the only ones keeping that scorecard. Nobody else is.
Yeah.
Nobody else is.
Rip it up. Get rid of the scorecard. And so the courage. Where does the courage come from in you, Scott, to try something, even though it might result in a way that didn't work? Like where do you get some of your courage from?
I think, and trust me, I'm not like a hugely courageous person. I have found courage in some areas of my life, which is really just about, how I live and who I am and what I say and what I do, and willing to try things. But I think where the courage comes from is experiential evidence where, like I said before, I regret more what I didn't do than what I did do. And that comes to mind when it comes to, should I try this? Or, you know what? I regret not doing all these things, but the times I did things, even if it didn't work out, I didn't feel as much. Sometimes I said, "Well, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that." Like every
forehead slap.
Like every once in a while, I'll still put my tongue on a 9-volt battery. Don't ask me why. I did it when I was a kid, and I do it now. Every once in a while, I'll just do it just because I wonder if that still happens. I know it still happens. I know it does.
Because the laws of electrical conduction have changed.
They have
since you were
not
young.
changed. It's like every Halloween. Every Halloween, I reach and I grab a handful of candy corn. I hate candy corn. I can't stand it. But every Halloween, if I see candy corn, I grab it and I eat it. I don't learn sometimes, and I make mistakes over and over again. But truly, the things that bother me most are the things that I had opportunities that I never tried. That's where I find my courage. It's like, where's the regret going to be? Is the regret going to be walking away without giving it a shot? Or is the regret going to be, I gave it a shot and it didn't work? Oh, well. I know where the regret's going to be. So that's where my courage comes from. And we've all got experiential evidence.
Yeah, and you're leveraging.
If you weren't willing to fall down, you wouldn't learn to walk. If you weren't willing to fall down, you could never ride a bike. If you never ride a bike, if you weren't willing to learn and to make mistakes and to hit the curb every once in a while, you might never learn to drive a car. I mean, we trap ourselves in cocoons of regret.
We do. We do. So and leveraging your regret.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you leverage your regret. And that was, take this show, for example, when you suggested that we do a podcast together, a live podcast, first reaction was, for me, split second fear. Like, what if I make a mistake? What if I can't do this? What if? And then I immediately thought, well, what if it works out? I turned it around. And so for me, and many examples of this in my life, getting clarity on what actually is the fear. Like, what exactly is the thing that I'm afraid of? And then I look at that and I think, okay, how bad is that really? Versus how bad do I want this to work out?
Right.
And the how bad do I want this to work out now in the second half of my life is winning. 99.9% of the times it's winning. The clarity. I'm going to do it. And so what? If it fails, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the courage.
Here's the funny thing. We're afraid of making mistakes. Looking bad. Looking bad is like the big one. If everybody could try things without anybody else knowing about it, nobody ever seeing it, we'd probably do a whole lot more. But sometimes we're very out in public, and sometimes people will see us walking out the door and falling on the ice. I don't, it's like I'll walk out the door, fall on the ice, and if there's 3 or 4 people outside watching and they start laughing, it is the end of my life. I'm a fool. I look like an idiot. But let me tell you how hypocritical we are as human beings. I don't want to look silly in front of you. But I will go on a Saturday afternoon, buy a theater ticket, go sit in that theater, buy a $10 thing of popcorn that should cost $1, a $7 soda, which should cost 50 cents. And I will sit in that theater and I will watch people fall on the ice and laugh. I will watch people make fools of themselves and laugh. So what I'm saying is I enjoy the comedy of life as long as I don't have to play a part in it. And it's like, why not be a part of the comedy? If you fall down and you bring laughter, bring the laughter. Be a part of the laughter. Oh, no, but they're laughing at me. Well, yeah, you fell on the ice, you moron. It's funny. Yeah, as long as you don't break your head open and die in front of them. But, but if you fall down, you fall down. People see it, they're going to laugh. If you do something silly, you say the wrong thing. Being in TV and radio for so long, I used to be so afraid. What if I don't say a word right? And sometimes pronouncing it, they had me do the news sometimes. And I'm having to bring up like foreign dignitaries' names. And I'm reading them like Mooga Booga. And I don't even know what that is. And I'd say things wrong and people would be like, oh, you said it wrong. I was like, well, you know what? I don't know these things. And it's okay. And it's okay. But it's
my God.
Funny. I don't want to be the butt of the joke, but I will pay to watch you be the butt of the joke. It's such a hypocritical moment in our lives. Start becoming part of the great comedy, which is our lives. And I'll tell you what, your life can be comedy. It could be tragedy. It could be a love story. It could be a drama, or it could be a little bit of everything. But
do you remember that show? That show, Hidden Camera?
Oh,
where they would
what was it?
Catch people doing funny things.
Candid Camera with Alan Funt. Yes,
That's it. Candid Camera. Yeah, that kind of thing. And I remember there was funny you brought up the news because there was a newscaster. So there's a clip on YouTube somewhere. Can't remember who the person was. And they pronounced Canada. Canada. This is an American Canada. And that goes around and it's funny. It's funny.
Oh my goodness. I was reading to my daughter and one of her friends when she was little, and I was reading a dinosaur book. And it was about three little dinosaurs or something like that. And it had words like stegosaurus and is like a polysaurus and this source and that, and all these different names. And at one point, it's like the stegosaurus ran into the policeman. But I was so into the mood of the dinosaurs, I said the policeman, which I thought was another dinosaur because I didn't read the word policeman. My daughter, in a little bit, she's laughing at me. She goes, "That's policeman, Dad." I was like, you know what? And it was funny, and that's a memory I'll carry with me forever. Why? Because I made a silly mistake. I made a silly mistake, and we laugh. You know, and when you can laugh so hard, root beer comes out of your nose. You know, or you could just. It's so beautiful. What are we saying here? If you fall down, try to make it part of the dance. It is part of the dance. I often think breakdancing was invented by somebody who was trying to tap dance and fell down. I don't know.
Probably.
It could be. It could be. We got something here that's probably a little more serious. Nicole, I had a brain injury in 2016, and I see how people respond to me. Less patient. So many people have a perception or expectations of how we should be. Thank goodness I had 25 years of recovery. Congratulations to you, Nicole. And knowing where my security comes from. I see how people are to other people even more since my brain injury. But you know what? That's one of the problems. And Nicole, I agree with your statement, but stop looking at what they're doing. Stop paying attention to what they see. We can't change what people are going to see or how they're going to see things. You know,
it's about them.
And if we're living our life based on what other people see, we're never going to be happy. Mm-hmm. I've had relationships. I've been with people. I've worked in places where my whole thing was about making everyone else happy, and nobody ever was. And I certainly wasn't. It wasn't until I said, this is what makes me happy. And you know what? What you think about me, you know, fuck you. I mean, I'm just going to say it. I know that's straightforward. That's yours. You own it. If you want to be miserable and see the negative side of everything, then you do it. You own it. It's yours. I don't want any piece of it. And me trying to convince you to be positive is just never going to work. You know what? You know what they can do? You lead by example.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Gandhi said it best. He said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." He didn't say go out and tell the world how they should change. He said, "Be that change, and then the world will change." So make mistakes, slip on the ice, pretend it's a dance, laugh at yourself and laugh with others, and have the courage just to try new things, and the world will follow you. And those who don't, never will. Never.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, being that change and being the role model for trying something, even though it might result in a mistake, that really does give other people permission to try. Like, how many times is everybody standing around waiting for that first person to do something, for that first person to go into the bouncy castle? Right?
That's right. That is
I'm going to be the first one. I'm going. Give me a helmet, and I'm going.
Let me knock some of them little ankle biter sons of bitches around in there. I'll bounce those kids so high they're going to go through the ceiling of the thing.
And I think, you know what? And I brought up helmet. So sure, sometimes we might do something and foresee that there's a potential risk, right?
Yeah.
So why not think ahead? If you're clear on what your fear is, if you're clear on what the worst case scenario might be, well, maybe you can plan for that. Maybe you can wear that helmet, whatever that looks like in this particular scenario. Get clear, plan for something that might happen and protect yourself a little against that, but also plan on what could the results be. right? Let that be part of your motivation, because if this thing works out, wow, imagine, just imagine.
Well, let's make that really clear. When we're saying don't be afraid of making mistakes, we're not saying just do anything. Just
Right.
go out and do something. If you don't know how to swim, jumping into a raging river to white water raft is probably not what you should be doing. There's a difference between making mistakes and being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what you're doing. Do things safely, obviously. Do things carefully, obviously. Don't
Mm-hmm.
do things purposely that put you in harm's way, of course. Then you can't say, "Oh, I mean, it's a mistake." No, you consciously made that decision. That was just being really kind of idiotic, is the truth. I mean, there's no nice way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're talking about here isn't that. Mary's right. Think about what you're doing and think about the result. If I do this, this could happen. And if I'm willing to accept that that's possible, then I should go ahead and do it. If I'm not willing to accept the possibility, then maybe I shouldn't do this. I should try something different. We're not saying
Mm-hmm.
don't be active, but maybe just pull back on it a little bit. But here's the kicker on all of this. Most people know what they want to do.
Mm.
Most people even know what they should do, but they need help to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mary, you help people. You're a coach
Yeah.
in several areas, but specifically in making changes in your life. How many of those people kind of already know what they should do, but they just can't get over the hump to do it? It's not like
So
you're bringing them an idea saying, "Why don't you do this?" And they're like, "Oh, I've never thought of." They've got an idea of what they want, but they just don't know how to get from where they are to where they're because
yeah.
they never had the courage just to try, and that's where they need our help, right?
Yeah, they've got the vision. They need the encouragement. They need a little bit of guidance. And sometimes they come to me with the idea that the exact plan has to be laid out. And you know that saying, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step.
Yeah,
That's one thing, right? Like having the courage to take a step and then look around. Okay, where am I? And then adjust. So I
right.
one of the first things I tell people when they sign up with me is that yes, we will draft an action plan together. We will create that. We'll develop that based on what your vision is of where you want to go. And I want your commitment to be flexible. We will try these things, then we will checkpoint, see how it's working. If that's not working, we'll try something different. And so it may not be a straight line exactly to the place that you want to go. Maybe a little bit of zigzag, maybe even a little bit of spiraling, but it will be fun. And
Absolutely.
you will grow, and eventually you will get to your vision. And some people end up deciding that that vision that they had in the beginning, that action plan actually took them on a different path, which is even more rewarding, right? That happens.
Exactly. How many times has anybody ever gotten lost and discovered something?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, driving and you take a wrong turn and you're like, I never knew this diner was here. Let me go try this diner.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you're drinking the world's best cup of coffee and eating a piece of blueberry pie that you would die for, but you never would have found it unless you made a mistake and took a wrong turn.
Yeah.
That's part of our discovery is by doing those things.
Ooh.
If everything we did was exactly how we planned it out, how exciting would your life be? It
Yeah,
would
it
be
would be boring.
dull. It's sometimes it's the I don't know if I'm going to slip and fall. You know, people I've used this before too, but people stand in line to go on roller coasters. They stand in line for 2 hours. 2
Hmm.
hours. I don't because I'll buy the speed pass, but they'll stand in line for 2 hours to go on a roller coaster. Why do they go on a roller coaster? Because somewhere in their gut, it's like something might go wrong. This is dangerous. I'm on the edge. If it was just, if the roller coaster had no turns and no flips and no spins and no speed, and it just went on a straight line like that, would you stand in line for it? No. We want the excitement. So embrace it. Embrace it when you're doing things. Embrace making mistakes and having problems and not knowing. Sometimes I don't know what's going to happen when I take that next step. But I know it's better than just not taking a step at all. Because, like you
I
said,
agree.
it's like these steps and stuff. What if you only took 6 steps and there's 12 steps there?
Yeah.
Now You're stuck in the middle of a staircase on a little tiny step, and that's your whole world. Keep climbing. Keep climbing, even if you don't know what's going to happen. Even if you slip down a step, then you get back up and you go back up the steps again. So what? But just don't stay there and get stuck, because too many people are stuck and too many people are miserable.
And I think you're so right, Scott. I remember there was a time I went to the airport to pick up my aunt from the airport, and my mom and dad were with me, and they were afraid to take the moving conveyor belt thing that you stand on that takes you like across the terminal. And I was like, why? You just need to take the first step. Just get on.
Yeah.
Just get on and it will do its thing. So I get on and I'm running forward, I'm running backwards, I'm dancing, I'm going back. Anyway, they got on. And then as I'm talking to them, I'm turned toward, they're facing the right way. I'm facing the wrong way. Of course, because I'm backwards. I missed the end of the, I don't know what you call it, a movator or something. And I fell.
I think they call it people movers.
People movers.
Yeah.
And I fell because I tripped on the end of it. It pushed me onto the tiles. Anyway, that was pretty funny. Everybody laughed.
And those are funny moments.
Yeah, those are funny moments.
We're running out of time. I want to get this. Nicole was talking earlier about a brain injury. She says, I freaking feel everything. It's horrible. At times, I wish there was an on-off switch. She goes on to saying, it's taking courage to communicate with you too, because my cognitive got affected. I have to learn how to put sentences together. I tell myself every day is practice. You know, Nicole, you're doing just fine. And you're sharing with
you're
us.
Doing it.
You're a part of what we're doing. And if you were not to connect with us and share with us and try and make a typo or say the wrong thing or put a sentence in the wrong order, I mean, come on. We've had American presidents, I don't know about Canada, but we've had American presidents, Nicole, who couldn't find a complete sentence. If you could spot them, the noun, the verb, and the predicate, and they still couldn't find a complete sentence. You know, it doesn't matter. It's where your heart leads you. It's not about your brain. It's about where your heart leads you.
Yeah,
and what you share with people and what you try. Yes,
what you try. Because Nicole, you're a shining example of modeling that behavior, right? She's modeling that. She's being that change. You are trying, and you're typing and you're interacting here with us. And wow, that's amazing.
Ron says it can only happen to you, Mary. Falling off the people mover. Ron, I'm going to argue. I've spent enough time in airports to know that a lot of people trip at the end of those things.
Thanks.
Nicole says thank you. No, thank you, Nicole. Thank you for being part of our family, part of our podcast family. We love you. But you know what, Mary, we've come to the end of the show. And I know it's been 58 minutes already. And I hope the point of what we're trying to make gets through to people. Stop looking at mistakes like negative things. Stop looking at it like right and wrong. Start looking at it like this is part of the process. If I could do everything perfectly, people do crossword puzzles because they're hard and they get answers and they got to figure them out and they got to use. If I knew every answer, I'd stop doing them because it would bore me. Just be you, fall down, and know that there is no right or wrong. If you're on a staircase, you can't face the wrong direction. One direction takes you up, one direction takes you down. Neither one's wrong. So when you're doing your life, there is no wrong when you make mistakes. There is none of that. It's all just part of the process of living and learning and having fun too. Having fun. We got to laugh at ourselves, don't we?
You got to slide down that banister.
That's right. Slide down the banister. Just make sure there's not a newel post at the bottom because that could hurt. It's a thing that sticks up and then you hit you right in the thing. All right.
Wow.
Mary, final thoughts, Mary.
Oh, final thoughts. There's so much more to life. There's so much more to discover if you try, and you can try small steps. Just try. I believe in you. And thank you, Scott. This was an amazing Amazing conversation. Always
I
love
really,
chatting with you.
Mary, I really enjoyed this too, and I know that we both are passionate about what we feel and stuff. Maybe we're not everybody's cup of tea, but we're asking you be your own cup of tea. Make yourself interesting to you. Be interesting to you, and you'll be amazed how much your world opens up. And hiding from the world is not interesting. Do things. Find your path. Grab a paintbrush, sidewalk chalk, do something, but make your mark in the world and have some fun.
Make
I
your
want to
mark.
thank all of you guys for joining
Yes.
us so
Thank
much. And Ron and Sandy and Karen and Nicole and Therese
And Jacques.
and Jacques, of course, Jacques and everyone else out there. Thank you so much for being here with us. You've been watching The Life Between All or Nothing. Remember, do one thing nice for somebody else, two things nice for yourself, and you'll never have a bad day. Y'all take care.
Good night.